It's time to get our lineup set for week one, so we're here to help you do that. We're going to start with Nathan and I's 3 guarantees of the week. My first one's going to be James Conner. I am starting James Conner everywhere I have, and most people are, but I'm guaranteeing that James Conner is going to have a big week this week. They're playing at New Orleans, so they're going to be playing in the Dome, obviously. You got James Conner coming in. You've got Trey Benson there behind him, but really, in week one, first game of the season, you're going to see teams run the ball a lot, I think, and I think James Conner is going to get a lot of carries in week one. I think this is going to be a game also where Arizona has a little bit of the upper hand when you're looking at some of the lines for this game. The Vegas line, the implied points for the Arizona Cardinals against the Saints, pretty high because the Saints defense is not great. When you're looking at the matchup, New Orleans allowed the 5th most points last year to running backs in fantasy football. So it's a good matchup. It's an offense that scores a lot of running back points. And the Vegas line that they have implied for Arizona's total points is very high. My first guarantee of the week is James Conner. I think he's going to have at least a touchdown. My guess is he has 15 to 20 points this week in week one. I bet you're going to see a very strong start for him in his first game of the 2025 NFL season.
Mine is going to be Tyron Tracy. I think the Tyron Tracy is going to start the season with a bang. Obviously, long-term, we have the questions about what role is Cam Scatterby going to play in this offense long-term? Is he going to start eating into Tyron Tracy's workload? Will he take over that job? That's something that, again, I have a big concern about throughout the course of this entire season. But right now, as of week one, Tyron Tracy is the unquestioned running back one there. And I think he's going to come out swinging and guns a-blazing. I think he's probably going to have a really, really solid week, 15-plus points. Going up against Washington, which is a pretty neutral matchup. I'm a big fan of it this season, at least to start the year. An interdivision matchup, anything can happen. Obviously, you saw the Cowboys with no Micah Parsons really go up against the Eagles and give them a run for their money. First game after being Super Bowl champions at the end of last season. So with another team like the Giants, which is again they don't have a pretty roster this season, but Tyron Tracy is one of those bright spots, honestly, to start the year. And I think you're looking at him getting a majority of the workload, and Scatterby will probably be eased in long term.
Yeah, it's honestly a decent matchup for him in week one. Okay, my second guarantee here. Look, I'm just wanting to start every player I can in the Tampa Bay Atlanta game. This game, when you remember these games last year, these games were absolute freaking shootouts between these two teams. And the Vegas lines kind of project the same thing. Both these guys, in terms of their total implied points, a yellow light for us in terms of Vegas, but that's because they're both projected to score a lot. And when you're looking at the wide receiver twos in this game, Darnell Mooney and Mecca Egbuka, Egbuka's not a guy that I think a lot of people are going to be comfortable starting in week one because he's a rookie. But we have heard more with Egbuka that he is pro-ready than I've probably ever heard with any wide receiver, and that he's constantly performing. He's already the wide receiver 2 there behind Mike Evans, and my guess is he's going to play that Chris Godwin role without Chris Godwin in week one. And so because of that, in a game where I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will pass the ball a fair amount because the Atlanta Falcons are going to be slinging it, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to keep slinging it back, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. They were last year, and when you're talking about the wide receivers in those matchups, typically, those are the guys you want to start. And so Emeka Egbuka, even though he's a rookie, I'm going to put him as one of my week one guys. I think he has a big game in it. I don't know if he even scores a touchdown, but I think he's going to get 8 targets. Legitimately, I think he's going to get the ball thrown to him a bunch, and I think he's going to pop off in week one. So I love the matchup. I love it when these two teams play, and I generally want to start every player I can when you have the Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers facing off in the NFC South.
Tyreek Hill is a start pretty much across the board. No one's questioning that, but I think anyone would be lying to you if they said that they weren't a little bit worried just based off of his performance last season across the board, and the fact that he's coming into this season with a wrap around his wrist, which was an injury that he had last year. Is that even better? Does the team hate him because of all the stuff that he did at the end of last season, say that he wanted to leave? I'm just telling you guys, I think Tyreek Hill is going to be one of the most productive wide receivers this week. He's going up against the Indianapolis Colts defense, their secondary, who last season allowed the 11th most points to wide receivers specifically. This season, the best thing about week one is teams like the Miami Dolphins, who have a ton of offensive questions. A lot of the reason they only have those offensive questions is because of their health down the line. Is Tua going to be able to stay healthy? Is Tyreek going to be able to stay healthy? Is Devon Achane going to be able to stay healthy? Well, all these guys are going to be on the field week one in a matchup where Lou Anarumo is now the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, and you saw the amount of points on a consistent basis that he allowed in Cincinnati last season. Now, granted, and admittedly, the Colts have a more talented defensive roster than Cincinnati did last season, so that is something to note. But again, it's not going to take 42 points for Tyreek Hill to put up 15 plus or 20 plus. They can have a 24 plus point game, and he's probably going to get a majority of that usage and opportunity. I think you're gonna start the season out with a bang with Tyreek Hill.
All right, my last guarantee for the week here, Austin Eckler. Look, I think the most fantasy football thing ever would be going into Sunday, getting all this hype for Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, and he ends up getting like 20% of the touches because Austin Eckler's the veteran, and we're like, yeah, we should have seen this coming. Of course, Austin Eckler was going to get the touches. And when you're looking at the matchup, it is a fantastic matchup for the Commanders in terms of the amount of points they're projected to score in this game, and in terms of how many points the Giants allowed to fantasy football running backs last year. I mean, it's just such a mismatched game in terms of the level of talent on these two teams. The Giants gave up the 4th most points to running back last year. It's going to be a game that's at Washington, probably going to be a dry game, so no real advantages there. But Austin Eckler is a guy, if you have him, you are absolutely starting him this week. We gave you him as a buy target going into week 1 because we thought he was going to pop off and immediately be somebody that, hey, you can either flip and sell high or you can hold on for the rest of the season because he's going to pop off. So they obviously rested him and Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. I would not be surprised, especially, here's the thing about Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, even if he does get a lot of work, I think Austin Eckler is the receiving back there, and I think that back is going to have a lot of production this Sunday against the New York Giants. So I'm taking Austin Eckler as my third one here, the old reliable Austin Eckler.
And then one more running back here, Tony Pollard. I think he's kind of just been flying under the radar a little bit heading into this season. I don't think a lot of people remember he was 8th in total carries last season among running backs and 9th in total targets. And again, the production didn't really follow because he only had 5 total touchdowns, and he was honestly pretty inefficient, 4.2 yards per carry. A lot of what you saw in Dallas when he got a good amount of work there in 2023 as the bell cow. So 2 straight seasons as a bell cow running back for Tony Pollard. To start the year, you're going to see the same thing. Once Tyjae Spears comes back healthy from that ankle injury, we'll have a different conversation. I think it's definitely a concern that we're going to have down the line because, again, less might be more with Tony Pollard. That's what we saw with him and Zeke Elliott back in the day. But right now, it's Tony Pollard, and it's really nobody else there. And with a bolstered offense in totality, right, you've got Cam Ward, who's now throwing the ball there. Hopefully that'll help open up the field. They're not going to be able to stack the box constantly because, in fairness to Tony Pollard last year, there was nowhere for him to run because every opponent knew that they couldn't throw the ball for the life of them. It was Mason Rudolph or Will Levis, and neither of them could do jack in the passing game. So to start the season, you're not really going to have you're only going to have college tape on Cam Ward. Who knows what he's going to do? They might have to actually respect him a little bit, and that'll bode well, I think, for week 1 with Tony Pollard this season.
All right, some matchups that are going to be tough for week 1 that I'd like to ask you about as well. And we can kind of discuss here. Jerry Jeudy or Jalen Waddle. Obviously, Jeudy, the wide receiver 1 for the Cleveland Browns, and they're playing Cincinnati. That should be this should be a game where Cleveland, if they're wanting any chance to win, are going to be passing the ball a lot because they're going to have to keep up. However, they are playing the Cincinnati Bengals secondary, which is a huge advantage. On the other hand, Jalen Waddle is playing the Colts secondary. You have the choice between those two guys. Who are you starting?
Almost without a question, I don't even have to hesitate. It's Jerry Jeudy.
Okay,
as much as washed as Joe Flacco is, as much of a joke that it is that they're actually rolling out 2025, the Cleveland Browns are, with Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback, the volume that he provides and the opportunity that's available there for Jerry Jeudy with pretty much no one else contending for opportunity. And by the way, who's going to be the starting running back there? Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson. There's no Quinshon Judkins to start the season. I think Jerry Jeudy honestly could eat, and I think Jalen Waddle has a much lower floor. I think I'm going to go with the higher floor in Jerry Jeudy. Obviously, you could have any given week, Jalen Waddle could put up 35, 40 points, but you legitimately in Cincinnati are looking at potentially one of the worst defenses that we have seen in a long time. They literally followed up last season by missing the playoffs because of their defense by not investing in defense at all.
Right.
So
what's interesting is on the Flock site, Jalen Waddle is actually like 8 or 10 spots ahead of Jerry Jeudy for this week in the expert consensus rankings. We had Jalen Waddle in the F tier and Jerry Jeudy in the G tier. I think we would probably bump Jerry Jeudy up now to the F tier and have them in the same tier. That's what I'm thinking as well. But I would go Jeudy as well. As much as I like the matchup for Jalen Waddle, I'm looking at Jalen Waddle and where he's ranked this week in our start set, and I'm honestly, I think Jalen Waddle's a start if you have him and you don't have a guy like Jerry Jeudy. But Jerry Jeudy, again, is the wide receiver 1, and you know, I think that in itself is a very valuable point in terms of
1 versus a 2.
It's literally a 1 versus a 2, and so it is going to be a high scoring game. But I'm leaning Jerry Jeudy as well. All right, Debo or Calvin Ridley. This one's fairly cut and dry to me, but like, because here's the thing. Obviously, you have Pat Surtain is going to be shadowing Calvin Ridley all day, and so I get that that's not the sexiest start, and a lot of people are going to want to fade him, I feel like, and I understand why. Debo, on the other hand, though, and we've been low on Debo the entire offseason. Now, the matchup for Debo is pretty freaking good is the problem. The matchup and the Vegas lights for Debo, the yellow matchup, green Vegas light, again, this is a game where the Commanders are probably just going to score a lot of points here. I don't necessarily think that guarantees Debo a lot of fantasy points, though. I mean, again, we saw that offense score a lot of points last year without a concrete wide receiver 2 scoring a lot of fantasy points. And so my guess is it's still a toss-up whether Debo Samuel actually produces this week or not. But in terms of Ridley versus Debo, it's really hard for me not to just start the better player in Calvin Ridley, even though he's going to have pass return on him. I think Calvin Ridley is good enough still to produce against pass return. I do. I still think he's good enough for that. So I would probably go Ridley. I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Again, this is one where like Debo at this point in his career he's more of a gadget guy, has to be schemed up for touches. Honestly, his outlook this season, I view very, very similar to Jaden Reed. I think they kind of play the same sort of role in their respective offenses. And for Calvin Ridley, a guy who for the last 2 seasons has had over 1,000 receiving yards in some of the worst situations offensively that we've seen over the last couple of years. This is a positive, I think, for him heading into week 1 over Debo Samuel, in my opinion.
All right, so we had Travis Hunter ranked in the D tier and Emeka Egbuka in the F tier this week. Are you comfortable starting Travis Hunter over Egbuka if you have the choice between the two? A lot of teams do.
Oh my gosh, I think I really think the floor play is Emeka Egbuka. I think your ceiling play is Travis Hunter. Yeah. I think Travis Hunter's ceiling is objectively just higher than Emeka Egbuka's, not just this week, but for the entire season.
It's also a good matchup for Hunter. I mean, they're playing the Carolina Panthers.
And with the Carolina matchup, that specifically is why I think I would just lean taking the shot on Travis Hunter over Egbuka, because even though we like Egbuka a lot and he's been getting a lot of the training camp hype, I think people are just looking over the fact that Travis Hunter was a 2nd overall pick for a reason in the NFL draft. And the fact that they are literally saying that he's a starting wide receiver and a backup corner means that they spent the 2nd overall pick on a truly generational potential wide receiver.
Sure.
Like that's what they're betting on at this point. So for Travis Hunter to start week 1 is his first game at the professional level. I think, again, the risk honestly is going to be just as high as if you were to throw Egbuka into your flex. So at that point, I would play the upside game.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I still stand by ranking Travis Hunter over Emeka Egbuka. I just love Egbuka this week a lot.
Yeah,
but again,
it's tough because Egbuka has a great matchup too against Atlanta.
Yeah, so, they both have good matchups. Yeah. Look, I'm honestly comfortable starting both of them. A lot of people are going to say, rookies in week 1, I'm not starting any of them. I actually disagree.
Yeah, no, I think that's honestly a kind of a common misconception that a lot of people have is like when we're conservative about starting rookies week 1, it's not because we're saying don't start rookies. A lot of these start-sit questions will answer, and you're looking at guys within the same tier. It's like, well, do you want to start Emeka Egbuka or do you want to start like Jamison Williams? Well, we're probably going to give the benefit of the doubt to a guy like Jamo, who, yeah, he doesn't have a super great matchup against Green Bay, but he's a guy that's shown what he can do at the NFL level and do it potentially consistently this season. And Egbuka is a little more of like a toss-up there. So when you're talking about like a veteran guy versus a rookie guy in the same tier for weekly rankings in the early season, the early part of the season, sure, you can go ahead and take the veteran there, and we might even favor the veteran there. But we're not going to say, hey, let's go down multiple tiers and let's start Darnell Mooney over Travis Hunter. Like, why would we do that week 1? Why don't you just go with the upside move there and start Travis Hunter instead?
No, I get it. And also, rookie wide receivers in week 1 in the last couple of years. Xavier Worthy had 2 touchdowns, obviously, last year on 68 total yards. Yep. Brian Thomas had 4 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Ladd McConkey had a touchdown and some catches. Keon Coleman had 4 catches and 51 yards last year. Actually, he played better in the season opener. He did a lot of the season.
Yeah, and that's not to say that some of these guys are not going to disappoint. Like, some of these rookies are going to come in and they're not going to be good. Right. And we're going to have to move them down our boards, at least in the early part of the season, because they are going to start a little bit slow, right? Yep. But there are a lot of scenarios where it just makes sense to go with the upside week 1 because we're just basing all this off of projection where we don't have any real data points.
All right, Jamison Williams versus DK Metcalf. Again, this is another one where it's a wide receiver 1 against a wide receiver 2, but wide receiver 2 in a very good offense, wide receiver 1 in a bad offense, wide receiver 1 with a bad matchup. Red matchup light. Red offense light, red Vegas light for DK Metcalf. Obviously, he's going to have Sauce Gardner on him, so it's tough for him. On the other hand, the Lions, when you're looking at their game, They play Green Bay, so that is a game where you typically want to start guys in. However, you'll remember Green Bay last year was pretty good against wide receivers in fantasy football, the fifth least amount of points to wide receivers in fantasy. Obviously, a great offense. The Vegas line is yellow. Look, this is pretty close. I'm looking at these guys on the flock side. Jameson Williams is at 52 and DK Metcalf is at 51. They're literally ranked back-to-back. If I had to pick one this week, I would still lean the floor play is DK Metcalf, even with Sauce Gardner on him.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I still think he's probably the floor play here. So it's honestly kind of lineup dependent. If I'm going for upside, then I think I'm going Jameson Williams pretty easily here. Again, that is another game. The Detroit Green Bay games, any of the NFC North matchups are typically matchups where I want to start as many receivers as I can.
Yeah.
It's how I won the Flock League last year, because I had freaking Amon-Ra and JJ, and those guys they literally just battled it out every game they played.
So many of these interdivisional matchups, though, week one just make it so much more interesting and honestly so much more difficult to really break down. And you can realize that, like, hey, you might just have a Devonta Smith stinker because Dallas knows them so well.
Right.
And that's just something that I'm really concerned with JMO, whereas DK, how often does Seattle play New York? Right. And you obviously they know Aaron Rodgers well because he played with him last year, but this is just my gut says DK Metcalf, and I think I'm going to stick with it this week, even if it comes back and kills me. I feel better about it. He's the unquestioned number one there. The only guy who's contending with targets with him there is Jonnu Smith, which I think is a relevant guy given what Arthur Smith has done with Jonnu historically. Back in 2023, you saw the target usage and that Jonnu Smith was getting over Kyle Pitts for like the first half of the season. That was crazy at that point. And then you see Jonnu go off against Miami. So there's a potential that Jonnu Smith honestly has a decent game this week as well. But with DK, I think you're right. I think the floor play lies with him.
My gut says JMO so bad. I'm gonna say JMO. So let's
okay. All right.
Let's go to some running back rooms that we haven't really figured out yet. Dylan Sampson versus Jerome Ford. Are you comfortable starting any of those guys this week? I think I'd be comfortable starting Ford.
I'm not comfortable starting either. But if I had to start one, it's Jerome Ford. This is one where I do again when we're in the same tier, when we're talking about two players in the same tier and these guys are in the same situation on the same offense, this is when I give precedence to the guy who has been productive in this sucky offense multiple years past. Like he did it last year. He did it the year before that when Chubb went down with a brutal injury in Cleveland. This is something that Jerome Ford is built to do. He is built for this offense to come in and take over for a limited amount of time as a top option, and he can handle that workload. He really can. So week one, I'm not expecting anything from Dylan Sampson, honestly, and I think they're going to favor Jerome Ford because he's the experienced back that everyone knows in that offense. All
right, so kind of a similar situation here. RJ Harvey versus J.K. Dobbins. Right now, J.K. Dobbins is ranked 27th on the site, expert consensus, RJ Harvey number 30. I think flexing RJ Harvey is not a bad play this week. I think if you have better flex options, you do it. But I don't think flexing him is a bad option. Whereas J.K. Dobbins, I feel like I would be more open to flexing J.K. Dobbins before I would flex RJ Harvey this week just because he's the starter there. I want to at least see it one time.
I'm flexing J.K. Dobbins this week, actually, in a couple of leagues.
Okay, so you are officially flexing
I feel good about Dobbins
So what about Harvey?
I feel less good about flexing Harvey this week.
So I think really what with Dobbins and Harvey, this is a Sean Payton backfield, Sean Payton offense. We just need to see what it's going to be like in week one.
Yeah.
And so I think J.K. Dobbins, somebody we're comfortable flexing, whereas R.J. Harvey, I'm not sure that we actually are comfortable flexing him this week, and we just kind of just want to wait and see. Aaron Jones versus Jordan Mason. Obviously, I'm comfortable starting Aaron Jones in my flex spot. You probably are as well. But what are your thoughts on Jordan Mason?
I think Jordan Mason is curious down the line here. Honestly, like as much as I would just like it to be Aaron Jones, and that's just the easy answer. And I'm like, oh, this is an Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon backfield where everybody thinks that the RB2 is going to come in here who's not getting the receiving work and is just going to be crazy productive and never really is, right? But with Jordan Mason, like, he does have some juice, and he showed that last year. And I think there's a good chance that he could get a significant amount of opportunity this season. One interesting thing to note about Aaron Jones last year is as productive as he was as a 30-year-old running back, he still was pretty iffy in terms of like his efficiency.
He wasn't efficient. He wasn't good on the goal line.
23rd in true yards per carry, 19th in yards per touch. So just kind of middle of the road there. And he could not hold on to the ball. This is not a guy, I think, at this point in his career, someone who you're really comfortable with giving the ball consistently between the tackles. He's more of your like scat back guy that's gonna not a bad way, but like kind of like a better version of Austin Eckler at his point in his at this point in his career. And I think that's someone that could get a good amount of receiving work like he has been his entire career. Again, he had 51 receptions last season, which was awesome, and 7 total touchdowns, 14 points per game.
Yeah.
But I just don't think you're going to see those 255 rush attempts translate this season when they were literally riding with Aaron Jones and no one else last year.
Yeah.
It was him and then Ty Chandler, and Jordan Mason is just objectively a step up. So I don't know. I mean, you saw this a couple of years back with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. When Alexander Mattison showed some juice, they gave him the ball, and they gave him the ball a significant amount there. And that's something I think they're going to want to apply here. You might see a running back room by committee this season for Minnesota.
Etienne Tank Bigsby in week 1. I'm going to start I'm going to start Travis Etienne rather. I think Travis Etienne is the starter there. I'm not really comfortable starting Tank Bigsby this week. I don't really want to flex Tank. I want to see what the split there is like. I want to see what Tootin gets. I want to see, how much they use Etienne in the receiving game. Obviously, some interesting comments the last couple days from Liam Cohen about Etienne, but I kind of feel probably the same way, right? Etienne.
Flip the fender coaster. Okay, it's Etienne.
You're starting Etienne. Okay, fine. Yeah, that's pretty much how it is with the Jaguars backfield until we learn more this week. A tight end matchup for you here real quick. David Njoku or Evan Ingram this week. Obviously, again, matchup-wise, I think Ingram has the Titans, and then David Njoku has the obviously high-scoring game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Which one would you choose this week if you had the choice?
Since Njoku has the pre-established experience and chemistry within that offense and with Joe Flacco, honestly, he had a really productive year with Joe Flacco back in 2023 in Cleveland. I'm going to favor David Njoku week 1. I love Evan Ingram's season outlook. I think Evan Ingram is going to be very productive, very solid. He can end up outscoring David Njoku this season, and I would not be shocked at all. Week 1, this is a brand new offense that Evan Ingram is heading into, and Njoku just has the experience. So I'm gonna ride with the experience here when we're talking about guys that we literally have ranked back to back right now.
All right, a couple of quick hitters for especially some of the rookies here real quick that people have questions about. TreVeyon Henderson, I'm comfortable starting him. What do you think?
I love Henderson this week. I did a couple of start-sit questions heading into the Thursday night game involving TreVeyon Henderson. A lot of times he was a flex option that people were considering him, or like a veteran guy like Diggs or something like that.
Yep.
This is one where I'm pretty confident that Henderson's going to come out and just assert his dominance in that backfield immediately.
All right, I got to ask you this one as well because you have Caleb Johnson against me in the Flock League. Are you starting him this week?
I have to start him this week.
Would you start?
No, literally.
Would you start him if you had Michael Pittman? Are you starting him over Caleb Johnson?
Yeah, but Caleb Johnson's my running back too, so
I'm aware. Thanks.
If you're faced in a normal situation when you don't implode and just destroy your own fantasy team, and you're probably looking at maybe flexing Caleb Johnson, that's not something I'm comfortable doing. To be completely honest, I'm not comfortable flexing Jaylen Warren either, because I don't think Jaylen Warren ever in his career has shown that he can be consistently hyper-productive. You know exactly what Jaylen Warren's going to be in that offense, and it's not going to change. Caleb Johnson is literally Najee Harris. It's a Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren split, and you're hoping that Caleb Johnson has a little more upside than what Najee does, again, down the line. But heading into week 1, you're looking at that depth chart, that unofficial depth chart heading into this first week. Caleb Johnson is technically the running back 3. I think once we get into the red zone, when we have red zone opportunities and goal line carries, you're probably going to give it to your bigger body running back like Caleb Johnson.
Depth charts are
But
full
again,
of it.
against the Jets, how often is that going to happen? It's probably going to be a pretty low-scoring game. Not mine. It probably will. And at that point, I think I'm betting on the veterans there to just have the higher floor than Caleb Johnson. If you can help it, I would not be starting Caleb Johnson this week.
Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, I'm not starting him this week.
I'm not starting him this week.
I like Eckler, and so I think it's Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. So there you go. Again, let us know what you think of this video. If you enjoyed this type of video where we go through, talk about these different scenarios, talk about guarantee lineup advice, drop a like for us. Make sure you're also subscribed if you're new, because we obviously would love to have you join the community. But let us know in the comments what you think as well. If you enjoy this type of video, something you want to see every week, because we're trying this kind of out. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you later.